Welcome to Breaking Bad Broken Down. On this show, we talk about the previous episode of Breaking Bad that aired last night. I'm Steve Zaragoza.
I'm Philip DeFranco.
I'm Elliott Morgan.
We're going to talk about spoilers. You know the drill. Jesus. So last episode, there's a gunfight that happens. Hank and Gomi are in the middle of this gunfight. Everyone's like, how the fuck could they survive such a gunfight? And Walt's there, and Jesse's there, and the Aryans are there, and it's just tension and murder and mayhem. And now
it opens up, and instead of the first scene being just straight up like continuing gunfight, it goes back to a happier time. Well, kind of a happier time.
It's a happier time with like prosthetic wigs, and very obviously it was a pickup years later.
Well, it's like what I guess it was Walt's first lie.
Yeah.
That's what I saw Aaron Paul tweeting when he was like, bang, and it was like 10,000 retweets.
Yeah,
and it was like,
yeah, I'll get pizza.
it's just ignorance.
Sure.
Ignorance is bliss. Like the epitome of ignorance is bliss.
yeah, and I kind of love that. So he has Baby on the way. He has like silly, goofy, stupid Jesse, and just seeing him practice that lie,
Yep.
I was like, ooh, that's awesome. Just like
Repeating it to himself over. He's
so
got
he
a bug
believed
up his
it.
butt.
So that was the thing. Is like it was almost like so he would believe it, and so that could even be said like he continued to have that conversation with himself, but it was mostly internal when before he did anything. And so you saw that lie, and then it disappears. It goes to commercial, and then right. It doesn't even you don't even see Gomi die.
Yeah.
Right. So boom, Gomi's
That's how much
dead.
they cared about Gomi.
No, I think
he'll just
that
be dead.
I think that it was kind of beautiful. It was just like he's done. Hank's injured. Jesse's disappeared, and I thought the episode was going to open and he was going to pop him. But then what happened, where he's trying to talk him out of it, is so great because it shows like, for me, the problem with bad guys, like real bad guys, is that they are gray. Some of them are like the Aryans that are so in their way,
Yeah,
but
archetypes basically.
yeah, what happens to Walt is if he did not still have kind of a conscience, he could have walked out of that situation with his $80 million, but instead he literally he was worried about losing his money, and in response to that he gives a bunch of crazy drug-dealing murderers exact coordinates to his entire stash.
Well, we've got Walt who's confused about, like, you clearly have this guy that's like, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? He doesn't have the opportunity to think about his lie this time, or think about what to do. He's literally in the moment. A split-second decision must be made.
You know, I guess that's too speaks to like the first shot of him like practicing that lie, because it was in the exact same location in the desert. So the first lie is like this, like he's practicing it. It's like it's safe. It's not a big deal. Worst thing that happens is that his wife gets somewhat suspicious about where he's been, but that's like way before she freaking knows anything. And then you contrast that with him being in the desert, having just caused like the worst thing ever as a result of like being flippant, basically.
And Hank even kind of says what I think most of us felt. He's like, you're like the stupidest smart guy ever.
Yeah.
You know, he made up his mind. He's not going to let a DEA agent live.
Just
I mean,
walk
but
out
that's
here.
the thing, like everyone talks about how smart Walt is, and like he's a genius, but it really is just impulsion. It is. He's just a guy that is infinitely lucky and impulsive, and you're seeing that it really is luck, because at this point, with all the fucking money in the world, with the $80 million he has, he can't get out of this situation. There's nothing he can do. He's absolutely powerless, and all of the power he has is just slipping through his fingertips.
Yeah, I do think there's a tendency to think he's a genius. Yeah, and I would agree. It's kind of like, but I do think he's smart. Like, I think there's a tendency to be like, he's either a genius or he's an idiot. But I don't think he's either of those things. I think he's just an incredibly analytical, not street smarts guy who happens to take his analytical knowledge and apply it to these where he needs street smarts, and as a result, 9 times out of 10 he gets out of it. But every now and then, when you mix those two sides of the brain and those two paths, then you get bad situations.
Well, and that's the chemistry aspect of the show in general. I mean, isn't there? I think it's like the first season, maybe even one of the first episodes, where Walt's talking about the idea of chemistry and about how like you mix things together and you wait for a reaction or something like that. And that's kind of what his entire life. I mean, he is a master chemist. He is a genius with chemistry. He came up with the idea that led to that billion-dollar company that it could have legitimately made him rich. And that's the thing. Walt is a genius as a chemist. In the streets, in these situations where people are dying, people's lives are on the line, not so much. He's a little bit impulsive,
there is something I think maybe to be said about the whole chemistry aspect when he's talking about how long he has to wait for the meth to settle, and even the thought of like maybe even taking these several elements, right, and then putting it together. There will be a reaction. There will be one last product, right? And maybe he has just kind of been it's all been like, this was destined. It was going to happen once everything started, and it's just been the really long ride, the really long wait. And
I think I've heard like a couple people since coming into work today, and Tiffany and I were talking about last night. Like last night's episode was basically whatever the bad thing is that could possibly happen is exactly what happened. It's like they're taking everything to its most logical, saddest conclusion. And it's very hard to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I just think that we've come to this point in the show where, you know, we've had time to kind of prepare for Hank, dying, possibly. We've had time to talk about it and think about it and mull over the possibility, what if Hank dies, what if Hank dies? And so, for me, Hank dying in this episode, it didn't hit me as emotionally hard as it was when Mike died.
I think for Hank dying, it was kind of like you had this terminally ill person.
Yeah.
You knew they were dead. There was no way. There was no way this person was going to survive, and it was those last moments, and you knew. And it happened, and then, I mean, I think there's even a bigger conversation of, at this point in the show, because what ends up happening with Jesse, where he's like, find Jesse, and he's like, I found him, he's underneath the car, and then Walt says, like, you know, I saw Jane die, you know, and
it's just, and that's the impulsion again. It's like, he didn't have to say that.
No,
he knew Jesse was going to die.
I think that was the moment that, at that point in the show, I thought, okay, well, Walt died as well. Walt is gone. It's all Heisenberg, and then we'll talk about, like, what ends up happening later, but I was like, he's gone. Like, Walt's gone. And
Walt's been gone,
but,
man.
Not to say that I'm not Team Walt, I think that turned me into Team Heisenberg.
Still the team.
I honestly,
I'm there.
we have to talk about.
I've lost it with him.
I don't have a team anymore. I wouldn't say I'm scene by scene. I'll be Team Heisenberg.
Well,
but
yeah, I mean,
I can't do it anymore. There's too much sadness going on for me to root for anybody.
I'm with Walt in a hotel room, locking and loading, going. We're done.
I think you're crazy.
We're done.
I
am crazy.
This
show has made me crazy.
I know, and that's the thing,
because I'm still with him.
I know. I can't believe it. Like, and I thought about you last night too, because I'm like, Phil is still. I know he's still on Team Walt. I know he is.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have this guy who is just like, he's destroyed his family, the people he tried to save from the very beginning. He's destroyed Marie's life. He's destroyed so many lives.
But like, as the viewer, we're sitting here with this attachment that's ingrained in us. And so if you watch this episode, you're totally not Team Walt. But
Well,
you gotta consider the baggage of positivity that people have.
No, I know. And the thing is like, there are choices Walt makes that are kind of like, that's what I would do, or like, what else can you do? But you can't forget that Walt had countless opportunities. The whole reason for the meth thing, the whole reason for any of this was because the cancer was going to kill him. He wanted to leave his family with money.
Right.
He made a goal for himself as a logical human being. This is how much money I need.
Yeah.
And once I'm done with that, I'm stopping the meth thing and I'm quitting.
And he had that.
He had that, and he continued on
But
with the greed and the
still,
murder.
You're still
and
having an objective ethical discussion as opposed to the attachment that the viewer has to Walt.
Well, sure. I mean, I'm not arguing that the audience is attached to the Walt character because he's the one central piece of the series and the one character we've been consistently following throughout the series. That's just writing. I'm saying that from a moralistic standpoint, I just don't understand how you can see how many choices Walt had.
The tragedy in it is that it started out that he wanted to do this for his family, and the actions that he took because of that resulted in the family, or in the destruction of said family, with Hank dying, with Marie now being a widow, with what ends up happening with Skylar and his son. All those. That's why I see it as this tragedy. Walt wants good things for Jesse, and he makes decisions that are not morally sound, but he always had the intention of his family, Jesse, and then himself there, and those actions are also the thing that led to his downfall. But anyway, we have to get out of the first fucking 10 minutes
wait, I gotta say
of the show.
I gotta say this one thing. I mean, you can take someone, hypothetically, Hitler, and say he's done some terrible fucking things in his life, but he loved his mom.
That's not the same at all.
It's like, but
He actually was really good at interior design.
That's not the same at all.
It is the same
You can't compare Walter White to Hitler.
But I mean, I'm just trying to compare evils, because you're saying like it's tragic because Walt was trying to save his family and now his family is destroyed.
Right.
But the thing is that he's still a criminal, and he's still someone that murdered people,
he didn't go
and greed and pride and all of that.
You can't relate the Holocaust
let's say
like that
I will
to
say,
Walter White.
I mean, hypothetically,
you can't compare Walter White to Hitler. I would say you can compare how a viewer feels about Walter White to how Hitler's mom probably felt about him.
That's not the same. Anyway, so we get. I watch Jane die.
Yeah.
Jesse's about to get popped, but then the hero of the show, Meth Damon, goes, "Wait a second. I'm gonna torture Jesse."
Hey, Uncle, you think we can take him back and maybe torture him for a little bit?
God
right?
damn
which,
it.
Which then
He's just a psycho.
Right. So then the next time we end up seeing Jesse, and we're jumping all over, is that he's tortured in a fucking cell like we're watching Zero Dark 30, and then he gets brought up.
He's been beaten.
Yeah.
He gets chained to a freaking
that
in. Yeah.
Which I loved. Once again, I loved Aaron Paul's sweet dog on a leash. So he's like there, and then you see like the two people that he still cares about in this world.
Yeah.
The picture, we'll kill them. It's in you know that's gonna happen. So fucking Jesse's back in the meth biz probably. And so what I want to know is he going to then become valuable to them, or is he gonna pull what Walter White did with those two guys in the RV and be like pop and then like kill someone?
I mean, Jesse, what you have at the end of this episode is two people with revenge on their mind. You have Jesse, who wants nothing more than to kill Walt. You do, because you've got Jesse now knowing that he could have saved Jane, and he's the reason why he's chained up in this thing, and Jesse really just wanted Walt's thing to end. I mean,
do you really think it's vengeance for Jesse? I think it's defeat.
I think Jesse's defeated. Yeah. He's a broken
man. Well, no, he's
man.
defeated, but you also have Jesse who, I mean, the second he found out about Brock, he fucking dropped everything, stole Saul's car, went to Walt's house, and was ready to burn the fucking place down.
That's where, and he was all about revenge then, but he's a fucking beaten, broken man.
Well, of course.
He doesn't have a friend in the world.
It's true.
He has two people that he feels like he has to, make the meth now for, otherwise they're going to be murdered.
Right.
I think when you're in that scenario of vengeance, I don't think he has the luxury of wanting to.
Of course, but you still have someone who. The point for all of that was Walt can't keep getting away with the things he's getting away with.
Yeah.
And Jesse is left with the notion in his head that Hank and Gomi die, the two people that were helping him, the two people that were against Walt, and Walt is back out free in the world, and he's still going to keep getting away with what he's been doing. So, of course, you have a defeated Jesse, and of course you have someone who's just like, revenge is probably the furthest thing from his mind. But the reason why he's there is because of Walt and because of the decisions he's made too. In the back of his mind, he's thinking, as soon as I fucking get out of here, I'm taking down Walt myself. That's the impression I get.
I mean, I'm thinking he'd be down with that idea. I just don't think that's happening. Anyways.
So we also have to talk about the episode title, Ozymandias, is actually in reference to a poem that Bryan Cranston beautifully reads in a teaser.
They're going to say he wrote it.
Bryan Cranston
just really nailed this one.
He's a poet.
Hey, Hugh Laurie plays music. Bryan Cranston can fucking write poetry.
Why not?
But AMC, they made this whole thing, but this is what it sounds like.
I met a traveler from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things. The hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
So obviously, it's pretty obvious the poem's about just, a king and his kingdom, and then the ruin of his kingdom as time goes on, which is really reminiscent of Walt and his empire and kingdom, and how now everything has fallen apart. So it's a very beautiful juxtaposition of the title of the episode, the poem, and Walt and his empire, and they do that in the show, the titles of the episodes.
Yeah, I think this is the coolest one, too, because normally they'll do, face off or whatever, and they'll be like, yeah, but then it's actually, his literal face is coming off. But this one is a poem that you have to, look up and kind of invest in, and when you do, you see just this complete parallel of the Walter White story.
And that's a lot of life, man, in the pursuit of grand things. sometimes you just fuck things up. Then we get Walt at the house, Skylar at the house, Walt Jr. at the house. Yeah, we have to get out of here. He's not answering questions. Skylar's putting it together like, the only way you're here is if Hank's dead. That's it. And he's like, we gotta go. And that's when she whips out the knife and goes crazy mother bird mode.
Out of my house, yeah.
And then Walt's like, calm down, you crazy bitch. And he tries to get the knife, and I thought she was getting stabbed.
I thought Walter Jr. was going to get stabbed, and they were both going to be responsible.
I thought so too. Yeah,
that would have been so.
You thought Walter? Okay.
Well, I mean, anybody could have at that point. You've got Walter Jr. coming in trying to stop them, and I'm thinking this is when he gets stabbed, probably.
Which is amazing to find out that domestic violence cures his disease. He just lunged.
Wait a minute. You mean adrenaline?
No, domestic
violence cures it.
It's his miracle drug.
I mean, I know what you're saying, with Walter Jr. turning on his dad, but you gotta understand,
he's protecting his mom.
He's protecting his mom, first of all, who he's never really been on her side. He's always been on Walt's side.
He also doesn't believe it.
Doesn't believe it. But now you have Walt reacting the way he does to Skylar saying, you killed Hank, you killed Hank, you killed Hank. Walt's like, I didn't, there was no choice. And you have Walter Jr. who looks at Hank like a superhero,
right.
who in fact, it's arguable that you could argue that Walter Jr. looked to Hank as a father more than Walt.
Well, he stayed at his house.
I mean, he taught him the morals and stuff. Walt was the one that was letting him fucking drink till he puked and shit.
Yeah. I mean, he's still an uncle, regardless. He could have been distant or not, but once
you
find out that your dad may have murdered your
and that's
uncle.
the thing. You just find out within a span of 15 seconds, your father may have murdered your uncle, who you love very much. And now he's attacking your mom.
It was
and
self-defense.
Maybe he's a drug dealer, and maybe he's a kingpin, and maybe he's murdered more people. So you're doing the only thing you can do in that situation, which is protect your mom.
So Walt Jr. has a rough day. He jumps in, protects his mom, gets the knife, and calls 911, right? And he starts saying, my dad is violent. He may have killed someone. He attacked my mom, which, by the way, it was self-defense. If I was Saul Goodman, if I was Saul Goodman, I'd be like, he was defending himself, Your Honor. The woman was crazy. But anyway, so then
she had every right to pull a knife on him.
Instead of just leaving, he decides to steal the baby, which actually it's not stealing; it is his child. Your Honor,
it's still stealing.
Your Honor,
why are
still
you
kidnapping.
So Team Walt that
Your
it's
Honor.
okay for him to steal a baby?
Hey,
it's his baby.
Can you steal your own child?
You can't.
No, Your Honor.
I think you can steal your own child. That's the thing.
Your Honor.
I think after you got into a fight with your wife.
Your Honor, I'm just a simple countryman, but can one steal your own property?
Hey, this man's just a science teacher. He can take whatever he wants.
Your Honor.
Yeah.
So he
right.
leaves. And then what happens?
Well, you're thinking fuck you, Walt. This is your mind is gone now. You've stolen a baby.
He has that moment where he says, "We're a family," as his kid and wife is cowering below him, and that was the point where I'm like, I am heartbroken. This is the worst experience of the day.
So even being team Heisenberg, it was heartbreaking. That and then him leaving, and then him getting in the truck and just fucking pushing the other car, and she's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
no.
chasing after him.
She parks there. I was like, that car's gonna get rear-ended.
Well, and you're thinking. Here's what you're thinking. This is the end of the episode. Skylar runs out into the street. Cut to black. Executive producer Vince Gilligan. But no, we're treated to more, which is Walt's on the lam. Basically, we're thinking this is it. He's going to use the $11 million he has on him. It was $11 million, right?
He has $11 million. Yeah.
He's going to use the $11 million on him. You're thinking obviously that he's going to disappear and take Holly with him, start a new life somewhere, raise this girl without knowing he was a meth kingpin. All is well on this beautiful side of the world. But then you have Walt changing Holly's diaper, thinking everything's going to be okay, we're going to be a family, it'll be fine. And then the most heartbreaking words are muttered ever, and the acting was amazing. Is this baby getting an Emmy maybe? I don't know.
So. I think so. The Academy still
was it VO though?
Yeah, it was VO.
It was VO.
If it was VO, it was really good. And
she was going...
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was digital. Who knows? It doesn't matter because it was powerful and it worked.
It cuts to one of the dancing babies in rollerblades.
Fucking Ally McBeal, baby. And so, and she's saying, "Mama, mama, mama," and clearly it's because Walt has been so absent from this fucking kid's life that she doesn't even really know who he is. I mean, think about the interactions. Every once in a while he's held her in his arms. I love you very much. But for the most part, dude's been off killing people and making drugs.
Contrasted with the first scene, where you're talking about when he's talking about Holly and naming her Holly and how he's all excited about it. And
I mean, again, at the very core of Walt, underneath all the Heisenberg and murderer, he's still a family man that loves his family. But unfortunately, all of that is buried under lies and greed and pride and murder and every other evil thing you could possibly do as a human being. And so he gets the moral idea in his head that I can't take this child. She doesn't love me. Just like my son doesn't love me now and my wife doesn't love me now. And he does the right thing. He takes the baby to the fire department where he knows it's a safe haven to leave a child with his address on her, and that's that.
Yeah, he has his address, and then he calls and does what I think, and so that's where I'm torn, because I thought Walt was dead in the desert. We had Heisenberg. He does have that last moment. I just wonder if it's like Walt's swan song. It's his last thing as Walt, where he's like taking all responsibility, completely taking her out of the situation as far as like who's responsible for this, and in that he tells Marie through Skylar that your husband's dead, Walt Jr.'s uncle's dead, and nothing's ever the same. And so there's two ways for me to look at that. One, it's his last good thing, but two, Walt, he's surrounded by weaklings.
And he's taking credit for what he didn't do.
I'm staying there.
But like Walt's sitting there like trying to make him sound all intense, but like somebody else took out Hank, and he tried making it sound like he took out Hank.
Exactly,
he's just
but it's a big lie.
Yeah.
It's just a big lie of him.
It's like his final big lie, basically. I mean,
I'm the great evil.
Yeah.
No one else did anything.
It's like the man, don't look behind the curtain at the man hiding behind the big face. And that's the thing, you're right. And Skylar does have that moment where she says, I love you, or I'm sorry. And it really could be a genuine breaking through the lies so that they can get to each other. At least there's an understanding that Walt is doing this to free her. She understands this. He's clearing her name so that she can go off and I read online someone was saying she can go to the grocery store now and people will give her a hug and say, I'm sorry about the things that happened, other than going like, you fucking evil bitch. You were in on this shit too.
You know what's the worst thing? And I just had to Google it real fast. $11 million is still less money than Walt would have made per year with Gus. He was making $15 million a year with Gus.
Not only that, I'd love to calculate how much he would have made at the brain place, the brain tech place where he.
But that was like him making a stupid decision when he was young.
Very stupid. No. It was after that. It was way after that. So he made the stupid decision to not pursue the people stealing his idea. But then later on, when they find out he has cancer, remember they're having that big party for Walt. The guy comes over to him, the guy that screwed him, and said, "There's a place for you in my company as my partner." And Walt's like, I'll think about it. Nope, going back to cooking meth and being an evil dude because he loves the evil.
No, he doesn't love the evil.
Does.
Oh, yeah, he totally
does love the evil.
He loves being important. He loves not having a boss. He loves
pride.
It's total a pride thing.
Yeah.
Most downfall of men is pride. But so the main thing, it's just he put himself in this situation.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think I'm not going to get into like the team Walt, team this, because I think for one I am team Walt in the sense that I want him to grab a machine gun and kill everybody.
Well,
I will never be team Walt in regards to whether or not he's a good person and anybody should vouch for him in any objective state of mind.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. All I want to have happen is I want Walt to get his vengeance, and I want as many people to survive as possible, and that neither of those things are probably going to happen.
Here's the thing, Walt's vengeance is a natural thing we want to see, but when it comes down to it, it really is just Walt clearing his own conscience.
Yeah, but that's fine. I'm the viewer. I can be the one that's like, I just want to see this.
Sure, okay, so what we're left with is Walt's leaving. Maybe we'll get to see who plays this cleaner guy. We have 2 episodes left. So we basically have a Breaking Bad movie left. We have 2 hours, roughly, to wrap up everything. We've got to get to the future where Walt is decrepit and sweaty and bearded and has hair and he's got ricin and a big fucking gun in his trunk. So is he going to get revenge for Hank being murdered?
Time will tell.
Do we think that he's going to machine gun a bunch of people and then take the ricin on himself?
I mean, honestly, maybe, because we also have a Walt who watched Hank die so nobly as a man, not begging for his life in the way that a man should die.
I feel like
you know?
I feel like Jesse has one last play. Like if he just
He
makes
has to.
if he just makes meth, so Meth Damon can seem really awesome to that one chick.
To Lydia, yeah.
To Lydia, then they don't need Walt.
And that's just a scene. It'll just take a scene to say.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, are you guys happy with where, like, if this is the end, if this is where we leave Jesse as, like, this broken, like, guy that has to live with the fact that this guy fucked his life over forever.
Wife's not happy, though.
No, I'm just saying that, like, that's his life now. Like, he has to deal with the fact that this guy ruined his life.
I hate that,
And,
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You, as a human being, your reaction is you want Aaron Paul to go after, you want Jesse to go after Walt.
Well, hopefully that happens. We'll find out. I hope he saves him, personally.
I mean,
Stay tuned.
Is Walt going to the Aryans to save Jesse?
Why would Walt save Jesse at this point?
Because maybe he feels so bad about everything.
The last piece of guilt?
Maybe he just blows away all the Aryans and says,
or maybe
you're
it's the
free.
Aryans taking out Hank.
I think Walt thinks that Jesse's dead now. Because he said that they were going to torture him to find out
that's
information
true.
and then finish him.
Oh!
Well, maybe he comes and finds him there.
Here's the other thing we didn't talk about really quick.
Let's make it real quick.
Okay, Jesse told the Aryans that the tape is at Hank's house.
Oh, yeah, so they could potentially go.
Okay?
Yeah.
Where do you think Skylar and Walter
they're all gonna be
Jr.
there.
are
they could all
going to
die.
be?
That's probably how they're all going to die.
And yeah, the Aryans are going to go to get this tape, and there's going to be a whole family there that are also accessories to this, that also know everything about Walt.
And they'll probably also see the tape that Walt made.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, because
At that point,
it's just like more people to fucking kill and get rid of. So the Aryans might kill Skylar and Walter Jr. and Marie.
Yeah.
And then
That's
you've got a
probably
Walt that knows this, and that's why Walt's back. Why wouldn't Walt just stay
boom,
away?
figured it out, and that's probably what it's going to be. So let's enjoy it and see what happens.
I want Walt on top of a pile of bodies saying,
Also
I won.
dead.
And then he
And then
pops
the
rice.
I won. There's no way for him to win anything.
It depends on what you really classify winning. At this point, really, like, if he ended up with, like, a bagel and no one wanting to kill him, he wins.
It'd be
Walt
pretty happy
wins.
against Breaking Bad standards.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this episode. Tune in next time where we're going to talk about the final 2 episodes. I'm fucking scared and nervous. I'm Steve Zaragoza.
I'm Philip Franco.
Elliott Morgan.
He's gonna reign supreme. Team Heisenberg.